Şu anda
Ayşe sen de niye
Now we are starting our workshop session. First workshop is going to be conducted by Alper Rozanes. Please welcome him to the stage with your applause.
Thank you. So what is the idea, first idea that comes to your mind when she said workshop?
boring.
Boring. Okay, what else? Training home. What? Sharing experience. What else?
Beneficial.
Negative, one positive. Huh?
Beneficial.
Beneficial.
Socializing.
Socializing. Nice. Yeah, I know, I forgot. Joking aside, I had a problem with the Turkish file, so I'm going to go ahead with English. But this is what we feel when we hear the word workshop. So I will strive to make that not happen today. If it happens, create some noise. I will get the message. Ladies and gentlemen, today I will be speaking about, and the topic is somewhat dull, presenting poverty. So, I will try to make it as fun as possible, and I will try to deviate from the notion of boring workshops. But in order to do that, I would like to take you now on a time travel. Let's go to year 1967, 68, 86, 1895. Okay. Who knows what the screen is? This was 40 years ago. Our speeches are coming up. I saw it. For those of you who don't know what this is, in 1986, something profound in Turkey happened. Something extraordinary. Channel 2 started broadcasting. Up until that day, we had only one channel. And we were limited by what they wanted to show. And then suddenly, we had a choice between first channel and the second channel. Well, they didn't differ much. And after a certain time in the evening, this is what you saw before, after the national anthem. And there's not much to look at. But time changed. 40 years later, today, we come to this. Who in this room is holding a smartphone in their pocket, in their bag? Almost all. Right now, 40 years after the celebration of the second channel in Turkey, you are now able to watch all the channels in the world, not only in Turkey, but all the channels in the world, without ever plug into some place or connect to a wire, 24/7. That is the difference that technology has achieved in only 40 years in terms of television, which is a broadcasting system. So, today also there is something else. Historical records show that this is the first PowerPoint presentation ever. Cave, sitting man, someone standing, showing.
What is the show?
I think he's talking about, okay, this is how I hunted the deer, this is what you should do. Time has passed, and today we're at a point where it is estimated that 30 million presentations are being done every single day in the world. Every single day, as in Monday to Sunday, 365 days a year. But there's a problem with this. Most of them look somewhat like that. Data, 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 person. There's a person. Now, this is not uncommon. You have seen slides like this. Again, a lot of data. Somebody said, use some picture, so I use this one, and I use this one. So what is the problem? This is the problem. This is why you said boring when you heard the word workshop. Because 30 million times a day, almost everywhere, we are subjected to this. This is what happens, this also happens, and this. But I'll tell you something. these pictures are fake. They are stock photography where they tell people they pay to walk into a room. They say, look bored. They look bored, and then they take the picture and I buy it. But these pictures are real. Completely out of connection with the speaker, and this is the graduation ceremony of the military academy. These guys will go out to conquer the world. She is not happy. She is certainly not happy.
She wants to listen.
So, why did we come to this? And what changed while this was happening? So, question for you. The human attention span in 1998 was measured at 12 minutes. In 2008, it came to 5 minutes. What is it today? By the attention span, I mean this. I have so much time to hold your attention before it goes someplace else. Before you think about something else. This is the amount of time that I have. 30 seconds.
3 minutes.
7 seconds.
10 seconds.
1 minute.
Negative 30 seconds, you lost.
8 seconds.
0.08. This is last year, by the way. It may have gone down. 5 seconds I have to keep your attention on me. The goldfish has more attention span. Okay? This is the challenge I am facing when I address you. When you address people, you have 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds they go someplace else. Now, there is a reason for that. And it lies in the complexity of the brain. But I'm not going to bore you with that, because you already think that workshops are boring. But I'll give you this much. This brain that I have between my 2 ears makes up only 2% of my body weight. But it draws 20% of my daily energy. Look at the numbers. It's a huge but complicated system. Now, these two words are quite important because we are visual creatures, and I'll give you examples of that. What I want to talk about here is directly related to the PowerPoint, because when we use PowerPoint, it's a visual tool. We speak up and use some visuals, but there are things that we need to pay attention while doing that. Now, behind me you're seeing pictures. Take a look at them. I'm not going to ask you what you saw, because it's practically impossible. But I'm going to ask you this. This is an actual study. Someone shows you 2,500 pictures for 2 seconds. And then, after a while, say 3 days, it is 3 days actually, they show you the pictures again, and they ask, was this picture in the 2,500 pictures that I showed you 3 days ago? Was this in there? You say yes or no. Was this in there? You say yes or no. Give me a number. After 3 days, what percentage can you guess correctly out of 2,500 pictures? 18%. 8.
5.
Andres, we're talking about normal people.
2%. 5.
0.5%, 80%, 1%.
0.1%.
How about this? 90%. You remember. Now, let's make things a little harder. Let's say 1 year after, they call you into the same room, they show you the same pictures, and they ask, was this among the pictures you saw, the 2,500 pictures you saw last year? How much will I remember?
70%.
5.
How about 63%? Seems impossible, but that's the power of my visual perception I have in my brain. Now, I'll ask the same question. So what if I tell you something, or what if you read something? How much of it will you remember 3 days later? Figures are bad. But your brains are wired in such a way that if I support that message with a visual, I bump it up to 65%. We are so visual creatures. So whatever you say, if you're somehow able to accompany that with a relevant image, then the retention rate goes up 6.5 times. Now, here's what I would like to tell you about something that you may never heard, because it didn't make big news, because it's a scandal. Bordeaux University in France, 52 wine aficionado professors were tested for red wine. Now, I'm not a wine expert, but during this research, I learned that the language you use, the vocabulary you use to differentiate between red wine and white wine are completely different. They don't have any adjectives in common. Cat litter is one word they use for red wine. You taste the wine, cat litter. Or you taste a white wine and you say, the taste is kind of jealous. Like I said, I'm not the expert. But 52 wine aficionado professors in Bordeaux University were given red wine, and they wanted them to describe the taste. So they started using all the words relevant to red wine. But there was a problem. The wine that we're tasting was white wine with odorless and tasteless red dye in it. You can take 52 experts in their fields. You can fool their senses and only focusing on visual perception. So what your eyes tell you is a definite truth about what you see in the world. That is the power of visual perception. Now, there's also one more major factor when it comes to communicating to people, and that is gender. Now, these are not my official opinions, but these are just the end result of a couple of years of research that I've been making. They do not constitute my opinions, they do not constitute Toastmasters' opinions. It's just factual science that I have been able to come up with. And they say, you wouldn't believe it, that the male brain and the female brain work differently. I was kind of surprised to hear that. Wouldn't you mind? So, in the female brain, this is the first instinct to use the restroom together. Did anyone use the restroom together during the break? Or when you're at the restaurant, do the females of the table just get up and go to the restroom together? If they do, I see some heads shaking. This is the area responsible. This is the argue and debate sector in the female brain. The chocolate is this area. Over there we have the need to discuss feelings, which is something we lack. And of course, over here is the sex. Now, the male brain is somewhat different, not too much different, somewhat simpler.
It's a joke, right? You can't do that bad.
This is a joke, by the way. This is not science. But what science is this? They say our brains are wired differently, so the male brain, when they receive the message, they use the right side of the brain, which deals with the overall gist of the message. If you bombard the male audience with too much detail, they're lost. However, if you take this approach and apply it to the female brain, if you don't give enough details or if you don't give enough information, now they're lost. So when we do any sort of presentation, PowerPoint, no PowerPoint, we have to take into account that if the audience consists of males and females, men and women, we have to keep a balance. Not too much detail, not too broad. Now, remember this, presentations are coming on a long way, and humanity has come a long way, by the way. We turned from this into this. But not much has changed in terms of the way our brain has evolved, so we have to take these into consideration. But what are these considerations? This is the problem. I want to give some sort of things that you can apply tomorrow if you're using PowerPoint. So, remember the slide, the crowded slide. What I would suggest, the very first thing to do when you realize that you have a PowerPoint presentation coming up, go to the computer, turn it off. Because if you start preparing for the presentation on the computer itself, you're going to have to deal with font size, color, images, diagrams, whatever. Forget all that. Turn the computer off. Write down on a piece of paper, what is it that you want to accomplish by the end of this presentation? Do you want to convince someone? Do you want to make someone think differently? Do you want to persuade them? Do you want to turn them into believers? What is it? Write it down before you turn on the computer. When the message is clear and when it is time to use the computer actually, here are some minor recommendations using the software. Use a 3-second glance test for every single slide that you will be projecting on the TV, on the wall, whatever. Can people understand those slides in 3 seconds or less? Because if they can't, and if we pass the 5-second barrier, you know what's going to happen. They're going to think about other stuff, everything else but your message. If the slide is not understandable in 3 seconds or less, they will get disconnected immediately. So simplicity is the key here. Now, there are more than 60 million colors that we can use, but we need to choose them wisely because especially in the male audience, there is between 7 and 10% of color difficulty. So if you put too much colors on the slides, then it's possible that someone will get lost. And of course, colors carry certain meanings to them. You wouldn't want to use shades of pink in a corporate presentation, which is telling you about maybe layers, I don't know. So we need to keep a balance. Now, here is something. When you launch the software, immediately it starts with a white background, and we're so much accustomed to use the white background. I suggest otherwise. Look at this. We're not in a dark room. We are using a fairly good projection screen. And even if I use a dark background, which is easier on the eye, because when you do this,